Well, welcome everybody. It is time again for CBUS Roundball Weekly. Kevin Rao and the Hall of Famer Ray Corbett. We are way out of town today because Ray is down in Florida. I am what we're calling the 21st floor studios here in Chicago as I visit my daughter Katie. But that doesn't mean we don't know what's going on. We're keeping on top of everything. And Coach, one thing we got to talk about right off the bat is we interviewed Pat Murphy earlier this past weekend, and he had not played yet. And unfortunately, DeSales, who we were both high on, ran into a bit of an issue with Louisville, who got him in overtime, and that's just tournament time, isn't it?
Well, first of all, I gotta make a comment about what you're saying about us knowing what's going on. Okay, I'm not sure if geographical location determines whether or not either one of us know what's going on. Now, that being said, we made the comment months ago that DeSales was going to be a tough out, and they lost in overtime, which is unfortunate in the regional semis. But for them, at the time we made that comment, they were 11-7. And put together a really nice finish to the season. Again, hats off, congratulations to anybody. I always thought, man, if I could always lose my last game after winning a district, that's pretty good career.
Not bad at all.
So for Patrick and the Stallions, you achieved a great goal, and you had a great finish to the season. And I'm sure you're feeling pretty good, even though you're looking at that, especially being an overtime loss. That's never easy because you are analyzing to death. You are not sleeping after, and you were part of this, Kevin. One of the great, everyone said, hey, what are your top 5 wins? For some reason, I always remember the top 5 losses, and you were part of number 1. Okay.
It was a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one down to Convo, regional final game. And, after we lost that game, we got back to Columbus at about 12:30 at night, and I had planned on going to this condo after the season was over. I was so fired up. I gassed the car up, got in my car, boom, and I drove straight down to Florida afterwards, and I analyzed that game the whole trip. And so that gave me enough juice, enough I'm upset enough that I could stay awake, drive all night, drive all day to get to my condo in Florida. So that's the impact.
Probably still didn't go to sleep when you got there.
Yeah, I haven't slept since. Okay, I just want you to know I haven't sleep deprivation at its finest here.
Well, you've had some pretty good teams after that, so you've done all right.
We were, you know what? And they say it balances out, and I'm sure somewhere along the line, I could talk to some coaches that we've pulled out some great wins against, and they say, yeah, right. Yeah, I really feel bad for you. So,
well, and I just want to mention, because people should know this, I thought you handled with a lot of grace. I think maybe your best chance to win the state tournament was the COVID year. And, it just got shut down. And you had a team that I think was destined to win it all. And I thought you handled that really well because, what were you going to do?
That's it right there. And, there's a number of factors that went into how I handled that. One, quite honestly, I was very concerned about our next game. We were going to be playing state power, perennial power, Berlin Island. And Coach Slayball out there does a phenomenal job. And I knew what his matchups were going to be. And I knew what he was going to do defensively because I knew how I'd guard us. And I figured, okay, he'll figure this out. He's good. And, and talking to him, and I actually, one of the players for Berlin Highland, when we drove down here, we made a pit stop to drop off my daughter. And, at a place where her best friend or one of her best friends' nephews played for Berlin Highland, and he was here. So I was talking to him about it, and I said, how are you guys going to guard us now that it's over with? And he goes, well, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do. And I started laughing. I go, good for you. He goes, what do you mean? I said, because that's how I would have guarded us.
Yeah.
So now, that being said, had we got by them and Wellington, had gotten by their regional final game, we would have played two teams from the same division of a league, would have played in the Final Four. And Artie Taylor, who's a friend of mine, coach at Wellington, he and I had witnessed our last game. The two games we had played that year had been phenomenal games. The second one at their place, maybe the most enjoyable high school basketball game I ever coached.
We did that on the internet.
And
Yeah,
it was
I was
just
there.
crazy. The shots being made by both teams, and it was like 86-79, which, I take great pride in defense. We couldn't guard them, and they were making phenomenal shots. And I said, all right, we would have been playing each other and probably laughing throughout that game because of the game we had previous to it. And then there was always Richmond Heights in the finals. So, I don't know about that. And then there were other factors. This group, we'd been together for 3 years building this team. And for like Lachey and Collier, they had been 4-year starters. So, yeah, there was a lot there. And it was emotional in terms of telling them that, hey, the season's pretty much over.
Yeah.
Because I knew once they shut it down, it was shut down.
Yeah. Well, I stand by that. I think you'd have won it. I really do.
Well, there's a lot of people from Grandview that agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a chance to call a number of those games that year, and it was fun to call. In Grandview games, I didn't get to call a lot of dunks, power moves.
We didn't have a lot of Lachays.
And that Luke could dunk it with his elbows. I mean, that was a lot of fun.
Well, we went through a run there that, and you got, when you're in a small school, you're going to have runs of talent. And then you're going to have runs where the talent doesn't exist. That's just the cycle of life, right? And we went through about a 6 or 7 year run there where we were as tall and large and you name it as any Division II and some Division I schools. I mean, we could put a 6'7", 6'6", 6'5" baseline against you, and and have another one come off the bench.
Yeah,
we just went through a run of great size and kids who liked playing the game.
Yeah,
and to be honest, there was other things that impacted my. I sort of don't like bringing this up, but the number one factor for me when this happened was a year earlier, we had lost a dear friend of ours in Grandview and Steve Hall.
Right. And my daughter played for, yeah.
And Steve was a phenomenal friend, a great gentleman. I never met a stranger, and unfortunately died at such a young age with a young family and such.
Yep.
And in my mind, I think our kids went through a lot of adversity by going through that. And it put basketball in a real spot where you're like, hey, basketball's a game, guys.
Yeah.
It certainly did for me.
Yeah.
And even with, I think if had that happened 10 years earlier, losing a tournament to COVID, I probably would have been the biggest idiot in Northwest Columbus. All right. But after going through that, it just changed my whole life. It really did.
Yeah.
And
I think it did for the community. I think that it impacted because, again, not only as a coach, but he was a teacher for a long time. And
you
knew everybody.
You don't meet finer people. You just don't meet finer people than Steve. And so for me, when that happened, it was just like, okay, all right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Because this is not life and death. This is a game.
Well, and again, I think you handled it. I thought you handled it great.
I appreciate it.
A lot of people, still sticks in their gut. A lot of we just live and die when you're in a small community. It's part of the entertainment of our life. But you're right. We put it all into perspective. So something we'll always remember. So, this week we talked to Pat Murphy. It was Old Home Week because we also had on the show, we've interviewed Tony Bisutti, who we know well, and He's now at Reedy, and as we speak, we're doing this on Wednesday. We'll release it Thursday. People may be listening to this on Thursday, but he's got a big game tonight up in where he's playing in Mansfield tonight at
Yeah,
Mansfield Senior High School against Liberty Center, who's
Liberty
got
Center.
about one game over 500. So it'll be interesting. But we had a chance to talk to Tony and to Pat. So many connections to your alma mater at Reedy, both of them now. So we had really good conversations with them.
Well, the CCL, you grow up in these Catholic grade schools, and you have rivals through grade school basketball. Then you go to high school, and then once you get to high school, you develop new rivals. Well, Tony is he's a stallion, ends up at Reedy,
Right.
and Patrick's a Silver Knight, ends up at DeSales, and both of them have had phenomenal success.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're great guys. They do it the right way. So it's a lot of fun when we get a chance to talk to guys. And again, Tony was talking about when I was coaching at Reedy, my 1 year as a head coach at Reedy back in '86. He goes, "Yeah, I was at about 80 of your games because of the schedule. We always followed whoever you were playing. We were playing them next."
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to say we didn't figure out what we were doing defensively because for about a half, I had your varsity confused. All right. But we were leading DeSales at halftime when we played them at our place. And I remember Coach Chickarilla just going berserk, yelling at his players out on the floor because we were switching defenses every time you crossed the floor. And oh my, it was comical. It really was. But they ended up winning, and they went on to win the state that year.
Well, there's no shame in that then. But yeah, it's it was fun catching up with them because both you and I know both those fellas. So
Yep.
it was good to catch up. So let's get to it. We'll go ahead and get in on that. And then after those two, you and I will reconvene to go over some of the winners and the losers, or at least the winners and those that competed with the winners. It's tournament time, as you said about, you get to the regionals, it's tough to call anybody a loser at that point. So we'll talk about that, and we'll do it right after this. Thanks to Just Hoops for sponsoring our show today. With facilities in Lewis Center in Dublin, you can level up your game today on 22 different hoops. In February, Just Hoops introduces the all-new Class Pass. It's a structure that allows more classes, more flexibility, more opportunity, and more development. No hidden fees or long-term commitment. Grab your Class Pass and join the classes that work for you. Learn more at justhoopscolumbus.com. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Joining us now, a victorious DeSales boys basketball coach, Pat Murphy. And, this is one of those guests, Ray, that you and I know a little bit for a long time. So, it's nice to have Pat Murphy with us today.
I've known Patrick for quite a while. His uncle and I were the best of friends in high school. Actually, probably was close to being adopted by his family, his grandparents, and very fond of the Cummins family and the Murphys. Just good people. And again, I've known Patrick for as long as you can know somebody, I believe.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks so much, Kevin and Ray, for having me on, and appreciate you guys doing this. It's great for Central Ohio basketball. We appreciate you guys doing this.
Well, let's get caught up here real quick, okay? So you're obviously at DeSales. We're going to talk about your season this year. What you've just stepped on the accelerator here in the second half for sure. But real quick, because we don't want to keep you a long time, we know you got some planning to do for regionals. So let's talk about how you got to DeSales, because that's not where you went to school.
No, I went to Bishop Reedy, just like Ray Corbett over there, and Silver Knights. And I was, man, I mean, how far do you want to go back, Kevin? I mean, I don't know.
Let's go back to high school and bring it forward so we know how you got to DeSales.
Yeah, so, I was coaching with Coach Galoni as a young assistant for a couple years. And then I got a break with Dan Priest at Ohio Dominican for a couple years in my early 20s after college. And then I got my first head job at the Briggs Bruins in the Columbus City League.
Not that
And then
far away from you.
That's
Yeah.
right.
A Reedy boy. Yeah.
And then Coach G took the Denison job, and Al Allison, who probably hired Ray in '87, who we know very dearly. The interview committee was Joe Hippler, Jimbo McAndrew, and Al Allison, and Joe Lang. I felt like, oh man, I got this job, but it was not that easy, obviously, but I felt really good. So I was there for 4 years and then went down south to Lebanon, and I was there for 5 years. Before I got the axe as a head coach, I got fired, and I went and helped Wally Vickers at Lakota East for a couple years, and then joined my good friend Mike Winters as the athletic director at Hartley. He was kind enough to offer me a job and pry me into administration, which I greatly appreciated, and then missed coaching dearly. And Dan Garrick and I were longtime coaching colleagues and coached against each other a couple times. He's been the principal here over 20 years, and he and I talked, and DeSales was just a great fit, and excited to be here. I'm finishing up my 8th year at DeSales, which is hard to believe.
Well, now before I let Ray ask you the hard-hitting questions,
yeah,
talk about that experience at Lebanon and how that kind of, because we know in sports that you get hired to get fired. That's been an expression for a long time.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's great that, you're open to talk about it. But the thing is, I think it informs you as a person and allows you to grow a little bit more. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, no one likes to be told that you didn't do what we wanted. But at the same time, I think if done the right way, it leads to a lot more success.
No, we always say, and I think Ray escaped this because he was very good, but there's two kind of coaches, those who have been fired and those who are going to be fired. So hopefully I got mine out of the way. It's just part of the business, but it was earth-shattering for me. I was young and thought I was pretty good and smart and smarter than most people, and it was a very humbling experience, but, it was a long time ago, and I've reflected on it since, and I've learned a lot from it and grew from it a lot, and still have a lot of good friends down there. And it's just, you're in a small town and you don't get some of the right people on board. It just is what it is. So moved on and grew from it and learned a lot. And so that's I don't really know what else to say about it other than that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Ray, but I do want to say, as a Grandview parent, I was never involved in trying to get at Ray. I just want you to know.
Well, how could you? He's in the Hall of Fame this spring because of his amazing.
He wasn't in the Hall of Fame when I met him. No, he wasn't there when I met him, by the way.
8 district titles, Final Fours. Come on.
Oh, here we go.
I didn't realize I was going to be ambushed on this thing. Now, just
Ray's a Hall of Famer. That's just
no doubt. But having 3 kids there that had a modicum of success with him, it was never a thought. I want you to. Yeah,
absolutely. No, that's
Stop
great.
using terms I don't understand so that I can actually have a conversation with
you can't use polysyllabic words with him, Kevin. You got to go a little bit slower.
If the pictures aren't in the book and they're not big, we're in trouble, fans.
All right, Ray, you can ask the questions the way that you want, my man. Here we go.
Sir. All right. So let's get to the key question here. All right, that everybody out there wants to know. Like, when I went back to Reedy after Mr. Al Allison hired me, by the way, I don't remember more than one person, that being Al, in the committee to hire and fire. All right. So my conversation with, and most people were saying, don't take the job because it's the worst job in Central Ohio, especially being in the CCL back when you had Worley, who was perennial state champion, DeSales, St. Charles, everybody. I inherited a losing streak. But here's the key statement I made to Joe Lang, and I'm not sure if you can identify with this. We were walking down the hall one day, and I had the keys, of course, in my hand. And I looked at Joe, and I said, Joe, I can't imagine years when I was a student at Reedy that I'd ever have the keys to this facility. And now I'm walking down the hall. I felt pretty special about that, brother. I did,
No, I can remember, I was 28, 29, and we had the basketball alumni game, and just be able to stay for a couple hours with like Bob Spears and Mike Muller and play horse. Like we're just laughing, like we couldn't believe we're doing this. But yeah, it was a little surreal. It was a little cool.
Yeah, and Reedy has always been special. In a great place, and again, you got to learn from Bob, who could be as good a person to learn the game of basketball from as there is in Central Ohio. What a great gentleman! What a great coach.
Yep.
And I'm sure this season, when we look at the journey, because that's what it is. You know, when you start off in November, you know, we typically have certain expectations of what a group might turn out to look like. Do you have this in mind, or did you guys overshoot the landing by winning the district? Are you just like, wow?
No, that's a great question. Honestly, if I'm being honest, we have vastly underachieved this year. We thought we should be, one of the top seeds. We were a 5th seed at the Central District draw. We thought we should be a 1 or 2 seed. We were looking at winning a CCL title. We finished 2nd in the league. We were 1-2 in the first round. We only have 3 games in the first round and 3 in the second, 6 games total. So we had some, bad losses this year. My good friend Eric Saxon at Grove City, not trying to, say anything against Eric or Grove City, but I mean, that was a bad loss for us. Their roster's down this year. They're starting young players, and they beat us on the road, and hats off to them. We blew 4th quarter leads against a district champion Upper Arlington team that we had the game in the bag. Gahanna, we were up 10 in the 4th quarter. Tony Steib, great coach, great program, but again, a game that we just let slip away. I think you were at Ohio Dominican. We blew a 4th quarter lead against Trotwood, who's one of the top teams in the state. But again, that's pretty much where our first loss to Hartley, we blew a 4-point lead with 2 minutes to go with 5 straight turnovers. So we've been really up and down this year, but we had high standards. Our seniors had high goals and expectations. So I'm just so happy for them that now we're finally doing, what we thought we should be doing. So yeah, it's a long answer to your question.
No, but have you ever had a year like this? Because this, to me, to be as, I love the fact, and I've talked to other coaches, but when you face adversity, I'm not saying it's easy when you go out there and you win 20 and you win a district. It's never easy coaching because you're sweating. You just have different things you're sweating about and worried about. But when you face you're 11-7, brother. 11-7, you win 7 straight after that.
Yeah.
That just, to me, has to be as satisfying to get close to. I always wanted, I guess I'm dominating. I don't want to. But I always wanted to say at the end of the year, hey, there was a time we played as well as I thought we could play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How close to that are you now?
Well, right now, that's where we're at. And what's interesting is we started off 5-0, and we were blowing teams out. And PJ was not making shots. And so we're blowing out. We beat Licking Heights in dominant game. We beat Thomas Worthington, dominant game. Tri-Valley, they were 18-4 this year. We beat them by 25 at their place. We're CJ had a good year. They just lost in the district final in Southwest. We beat them by 15. We handled them. So we kind of peaked early.
That would be a team out of Dayton, correct?
Yeah, Chaminade Julian. Yeah, out of Dayton. Yeah. We go to their place next year. So we were humming. We were playing really well, and then we had these setbacks. And then you said 11-7. We were 9-3, and we lose to Gahanna, and we're going, okay. Our next 4 games are Hartley, Watterson, Trotwood, and Reynoldsburg. We're about to find out what we're made of. And then all of a sudden we go from 9-3 to 9-6. We lose to Hartley, Watterson, and Trotwood, and we're 9-6 walking into Reynoldsburg. We're going to be 9-7. They're going to boat race us. They're really good. And then we pulled off a great upset, and our guys played. And that really the game that started it was the Hartley game. We lost in overtime by 2. And even though
by 2 to them.
Even though we lost, we were back. Like our guys were like, we can play with anybody. We're back to where we need to be. So Yeah, that was kind of an eye opener for us. But yeah, I think this year it's pretty unique. Yeah, it is. I can't say I've had another year like this. This one's special because these seniors have been through a lot, and now they're just reaping some of the, the flowers, the love, the rewards. They're getting all that this week. They're getting lots of pats on the back in the hallways, and it hasn't been always the case this year. So we're happy for them.
Well, DeSales is a great school, a great tradition in all sports. And, it's probably somewhat odd when things aren't going in that direction. So for those guys to not feel that early, and now all of a sudden, hopefully, they really are enjoying this taste because of what they've gone through. I mean, I think it's a huge testament to not just you and your staff, which it is big time, because again, with your expectations, their expectations, cylinders, you're not firing on them. And then all of a sudden something kicks in, be it a returner coming back or, hey, we finally hit it. As coaches, we never know what it's going to be. You can't predict it if it's even going to happen, but it happened. And now again, hitting your stride. Good time to be hitting your stride.
Yeah.
I think you got to be lucky for a tournament run. You have to be good, and you have to be playing well and injury free. And hopefully, I'm knocking on a little wood down here, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Got going for you.
Yeah, for sure.
You were talking about PJ. Of course, I think you're referring to PJ Knowles, right, on your team.
Yeah.
Talk about what he means to you guys. He's just a tough kid, great leader. And I'm just, indulge me for a minute. We actually have a photo gallery of your game with Watterson on our side on CBUS Sports right now, and he's all over it. Because he's just that kind of kid. Talk about your seniors generally, but especially a kid like PJ Knowles.
No, PJ's everything for us. He's a 4-year starter, and he's a basketball just junkie. He's born with a basketball. Probably got that before he got a bottle. His mom's the head coach.
From his dad. It could have been from his dad.
Yeah. His dad and his mom. His Ray's daughter Mary worked with Diana at Otterbein. Diana Knowles is the head coach at Otterbein, where Ray's daughter Mary was an assistant before she got the Kenyon head job. And his dad, Pat Knowles, is a basketball trainer and an assistant coach with Kevin Weekly in our girls program. He runs a complex called 3N Sports. So PJ's uncles, her Diana's maiden name is Esterkamp, and Dave and Matt Esterkamp played for Dan Fleming in the 90s when LaSalle won Division I state titles, and they played at Bowling Green at OU and played abroad in Europe. And I mean, it's just, ridiculous basketball genes. And then you add that work ethic, desire, talent. He's just, he probably can take some time off. He spends too much time in the gym getting shots up. I remember he was late, maybe his sophomore year. His routine was to go get shots up after school, and then they have to be seated with the varsity behind the JV team at like 6 o'clock or 6:30, or the JV game starts. And he walks in like 5 or 10 minutes late. I'm like, where were you getting shots up? I go, well, you're not starting. You were late tonight. And so, that's like I'm benching a kid for getting shots up.
Too much,
but, yeah, that was our expectation. So, that's really just a small anecdote in a nutshell what he is. And so for him to, like the Reynoldsburg game, he dropped 26. I think against Hartley in the overtime loss, he had 26. He put on a show in the Coliseum Tuesday night, 5 of 10 from 3, and the horror of shooting gyms that the Coliseum is, that, we don't believe any of that nonsense, but, that's what everyone says. So he's got some offers now. I'm really happy for him. He's been patient. At the end of the year, he's going to take some visits, and he'll be playing at a Division II school in Ohio or in the Midwest, most likely.
Good.
And
Good.
Yeah, so he's getting all that he deserves, and we're so happy for him. He's a special kid, leader. He's just the full package. And those guys, he's one of the top 1% of the guys we get to coach in our careers, and it's special.
Yeah, I saw him last year twice, and it's a thrill for me because, again, when Patrick was at Bexley playing for the Lions, we had some great games with him and Ryan Peden. who's
Oh, yeah.
now, Ohio State fame as an assistant coach and has since moved on. And I went up to Patrick and I said, or PJ, I should say, and I said, hey, just remind your father once. We were playing Bexley and I ran out of bodies. I literally ran out. I had 5 kids and we went double overtime. And at the end of the second overtime, I decided to foul the guy who was all league every time he touched the ball, hoping eventually he would miss a shot. I don't think he did. We hit a 3 to win the daggone game, but Pat was a heck of a competitor. And, knowing his mom and dad as I do, they're good people. They love the game. And you're right.
Yep.
And he's just quality. And when I saw him, I felt like he had the whole team on his shoulders. He does everything for you guys.
He does.
You've got people. You've got other people there that can go around him and certainly play. So you guys you're going to be. I got to take a bow, Kevin. I'm sorry. 5 weeks ago, when it was 11-7, and you guys were number 6 in the RPI, that is the Ray Power Index. Okay. All right, that's my power index. I still had you in the top 4, and I said, guys, my sleeper for the tournament, and we had Zach on that day, Zach Fleer. I said, my sleeper for the tournament draw, it's going to be the Stallions and DeSales because Coach Murph's going to get them going. I have faith in it. And it was like the seas parted. The seas parted, and there you go.
No, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
It was all that Ray Mojo on the RPI. Hey, I wanted before because we're limited in time a little bit, but before we go, I do want to talk about your game coming up this week against Louisville. This is a team outside of Canton, usually known as a football school. They've won a lot of football games in their past, so much so that a league moved on without them because they didn't want to play them anymore. But they've been a good basketball, and they've got a kid, I believe it's Braden Gross, big kid up there who can play a little bit. Talk about what your what your plans are and what you see coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah, so they are very good, first of all, and we've seen them play live twice, which is a crazy advantage because they just played last night in the district finals, and we played obviously Tuesday night. So thank you, OHSAA, or whoever put that together, because our guys have been getting ready for a week, and they just played last night and have 2 days. So we saw them play Wednesday. They killed Cuyahoga Falls, and last night they won by 30 in a district finals, which was not unexpected against the team they beat in the regular season, Canal Fulton Northwest by 25. So they're really good. The kid you're talking about is 6'7". He's going to Walsh. He's phenomenal. He's as good as any post player we've seen this year. The coach's son is a point guard. He's an Ashland signee. He's probably a 5'11", just smart, super skilled, tough winner. And then they've got surrounded by them just some guys who know their roles and who are physical and tough. They pressure, they overplay, they try to intimidate you in the first 2 to 4 minutes. Don't get in the gaps at all, deny, switch everything on defense. And then on offense, they have these two that they can just isolate aside, play 2-man basketball, really smart, really well, unselfish. They've got a couple shooters that they can space with. And, you help on those two too much, they'll kill you with wide open threes. And they've played probably, if not the toughest, one of the toughest schedules in the state. They just beat Ignatius a couple weeks ago in overtime. They played St. V's, beat them. They played Richmond Heights, beat them. I already said, they lost. Their 2 losses in state are to Westerville South and to North Canton Hoover. Now, I will say this, the craziest thing about their schedule, and Ray, you can appreciate this. They played 14 home games, 6 neutral games, and 2 road games. So how the heck he put together that schedule?
I want Ohio State football or what?
Steubenville foot. It sounds like Big Red football when I was 8 years old. Hartley, Reno would call, and they played 9 home games a year. So all the films we're watching on them are all at their home gym. I'm like, what is going on? So they got a
tournament that way as well.
Yeah, and they got to come to Columbus, and they've got 2 days to prep, and we've had a week, and They're really good and they're really beatable, and we're looking forward to the opportunity because we played some good teams too.
I was going to say your schedule.
Yeah, of course you have it. And, the thing is, when you're an independent like they are, they certainly took advantage of it, knowing they had a couple of seniors they wanted to highlight. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you know what? The fairgrounds is a whole different place than where the Leopards play their home games. So
yeah, they're the prohibitive favorite. If we were doing a high school spread, I'm not lying. Anyone would tell you they're a 5 to 6 point
Am I talking
favorite.
to Tim Casey here?
No,
Lou Holtz.
Ask
What's
anybody
going on here, Lou.
Ask anybody. They're the favorite, but we, any given night, we'll take our chances with them.
Yeah, we're just a small little team trying to make it in the big
No,
world.
I'm not saying like that. I'm just saying it's a fact. Like Hartley's the favorite to beat Steubenville, Louisville's the favorite to beat us, and then we'll see what happens. But we're ready. We're excited.
Yeah, this will be at the fairgrounds as we've mentioned, and if if you haven't played there before, it does take a little while to get used to. Just the sight lines and all that stuff. I was reminded of that last night, when the Blue Jackets won in Ohio Stadium, how different things can be when you just have all that space behind where you're trying to go, it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Now, Coach, you guys are going, right? You're going to go to the game? You're going to play?
What do you mean?
Well, the way you're talking here, Lou, that it doesn't do you any good. I mean, the pregame talk here.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Hey, it's been a great year. We've got the bag in the corner to collect the unis. All right.
I didn't hear that. Now I think in fairness,
I said 5 or 6 points. That's called reality based on their record and their schedule. So that's not a big spread. That's just the facts. But you'll appreciate this, Ray. We had Casey Brown in this week to get us ready, and some other alums that you guys probably don't know, DeSales guys, but that's what we've done. We've brought in some guys to simulate them, and I'm really wondering if they're going to take advantage of their right to practice one day at the Coliseum since we've played one game before. And if they are, when would they do that? They played Saturday night. There were 3 games there today, so are they going to take school off on Monday and come to the Coliseum? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a 2-hour haul either way,
I had a principal that one time told me when we went to the finals, all right, the regional finals, you do whatever you need to do. We'll take care of it. And so
I just don't know if I'd want to get my kids on a bus and do the 5-hour round trip. I don't, they have the right to do it. I'm curious about what they would do.
Yeah. Are you guys going over?
We don't have that right.
Oh, because you're right here.
So if you play in a site, Kevin, and the other team has not, then you get the freedom to.
Maybe they'll bring the tape measure. They'll bring the tape measure. Do Hoosiers.
Norman Dale.
The great coach has now passed away. In his honor, they'll go there and ask the son, hey, put him on your shoulders. It'll be a warm and fuzzy moment.
Absolutely.
Well, Coach, we're going to have to let you go, but boy, we're just so, Ray's playing with you about the Lou Holtz thing because this show we've been complete homers for you guys. And we are looking forward to what you can do this Tuesday night. Boy, it'd be fun to see you and Hartley in another matchup just for fun.
Oh man, that'd be great. That would be awesome.
I don't know. They have enough seats at the Coliseum for that. We'd have to figure that out.
If we could end their season, that would be one of the best days ever. So we're hoping to do that on Saturday.
I'm sure they feel the very same way. So
absolutely. I know Andreas feels the same way. So it'd be great.
Sure you know what? But this is what makes this part of the year so special. But you know what? Knowing you for a long time, Ray, even longer, with you, we're just so proud of what you're doing. And I think the big thing this year was taking, you pivoted just enough to get you right back to where you needed to be. And you've got some special players to come on out and watch. And I hope people do that going out to, if you haven't been to the fairgrounds yet, you really need to come out and see those 2 games, with Hartley again playing and of course with DeSales playing. So good luck.
Yep. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you and all you're doing.
And we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show this week, and joined now by another, we just talked to these people we've known forever, in this thing. And I will say this. So it's Tony Bisutti from the, our friends, not not too far away from here, at Bishop Reedy. Got a chance to see him last year when I did a game that they were in the regionals online, and enjoyed that very much. But we go back to being parents at beautiful Trinity School here in Grandview. And my daughter's job in fourth grade, when they won the city championship in the diocese, was to bring the ball down the floor and find Christina
I remember those days.
Bisutti, who scored about 95% of the points for our team.
She could shoot it. She could shoot it.
He could play.
Tony wasn't coaching that team?
I was not coaching that team.
No, but I will tell you, I coached it part of 1 year, and I knew where Tony was in the audience. I'm going to tell you. No, it wasn't like that. It was not like that. But they had a lot of fun. So now, and where is Christina now?
Christina is a nurse, and she is the proud mother of a baby boy, Brooks. He's 2 years old. We are our first and only grandson so far, and just
Fantastic.
loving
That tells you how long ago fourth grade was, right?
Wow. Yeah, for sure. For
All
sure.
right.
Tony, I got to remind you that I knew where Kevin was located as well in the bleachers.
I bet.
By the time you got three to play for him, you think he'd figure. And I got to tell you, usually I was pacing up on the balcony, so it was tough. All right,
watching games as a parent is way worse than coaching.
Oh my gosh,
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, hey, Tony, so glad to have you with us. I'll tell you one quick story. Long time ago, when you were at Scioto, and I had you on an interview program on 610, and because you were having a great season, and we talked about it. And the general manager of that station came up to me later and said, "Hey, we don't do high school." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought it was a great story and it was a great interview." And he goes, "Yeah, we just don't do it." 3 weeks later, they hired Mr. High School Sports, our good friend Larry Larson. So I like to think I was a trailblazer along with you, by the way.
I'm glad we got it rolling that way.
Yeah. Great. So again, and that was a little bit of time ago as well. But having said all that, what a great season you've had there again, after graduating a lot of people that could play basketball at Reedy. You've put it together again. Talk about this season and what you've done to kind of rejigger things to get them where you want them.
I think to start out, just got to give credit to our players. I think we have a solid basketball system in place, and they have bought into it. And we had a high turnover from last year of personnel. We've got some young guards playing to go along with a good mix of some veteran, bigger guys, and just the team chemistry and the buy-in. And we've lost some guys in the process of that, from last year to this year, and it's all meshed well. And boy, they're just a resilient group right now. I mean, their resiliency is probably their biggest asset. And like last night, we were down 9 right out of the chute, and it was looking bad. If you weren't at the game and didn't really know you just saw the final score, but we hung in there and got it going our way.
Well, you beat a really tough Afrocentric team, right? I mean,
physical, quick, the whole deal. So yeah. And
we've had a chance to talk to Coach Bates, one of the really good ones around town, and he's always ready to go. So, what was the secret in kind of stepping on the pedal, down the stretch there?
Well, we had to. They were playing volleyball on the backboard to start and that wasn't great for us. And a lot of that had to do with our offense, really. So we settled in on offense, and it always helps when you hit a couple shots. And Henry Larger got us going from 3 a little bit, and we changed defenses. We kind of mixed in some zone and kind of got them off balance, I think, a little bit with that. Then when we cut the deficit to 2 by the half, and then once we took the lead in the third quarter, we were able to spread them out a little bit, and kind of created some foul situations, and kind of held it from there.
So Tony, this is going to sound odd, 22-3, which has to rank as one of the better seasons you've had, but it almost seems like Reedy was an afterthought coming into this tournament.
Right.
And I'm not sure if you looked at it that way or maybe, and I don't even want to say lack of respect, because people in the know, they know you, they respect the job you do every night. But still, you had lost to Academy, and at their place, probably had a couple opportunities. You look back at that to win that game. They got you a little bit more the second time, and I think they were playing really, really well the second time you played them, and then losing overtime. 2 of your 3 losses are in overtime. So, how do you feel about, or am I missing a boat by feeling that way about the Knights this year?
It's a great question, and you have a great feel, obviously, as a coach. And sometimes, as you know, these kind of years where you just kind of feed off. Let's just lay in the shadows a little bit. We're not coach of the year, we're not player of the year. We don't have all that distraction, and sometimes you can just emerge from that. And I think, without talking about it really, and just
Right.
our players they're kind of thriving on that a little bit of chip on their shoulders.
There you
We have
go.
some guys with some little man syndrome out there, and and they're feeding off of it a little bit, I think. But it's all good. I think we're where, if you look at the seating, I would have put us right where we're at.
Right.
And, we just try to get right at the right time.
It's a gauntlet. There's no doubt. We've been saying it for the last month and a half that Division 5 was unreal.
Very hard.
And what you said there, I remember we beat Norwalk St. Paul in the regional finals the year we went to the Final Four. And the next week we lost in the Final Four. And I bumped into those coaches. And those guys all, to a coach, said from Norwalk St. Paul, you guys will win a district next year. And I was like, guys, look, hey, thank you. Appreciate the thought. But we graduated some big time ponies. And, we had 6 seniors that had graduated. We had a lot of kids who were role players only coming back. And they go, it's the expectation. Those kids have played in these games. They expect to win these games. And I don't think you can replace that kind of feeling when they don't get intimidated. And the next year we did win a district, and we almost made it to the Final Four again. Had I not gotten in the way and coached the second half of the regional final, we're there. But and we beat some teams that talent wise, I didn't think we had any business competing with them. And yet we pulled off. Again, I think that mindset is huge for kids.
I couldn't agree with you more. Just and other coaches, we have said the same thing. Like, you're going to be back in the district final probably, and you're going to feed off your players' experience, even though they weren't your top players, maybe, who have graduated, and those guys just step up and program expectation for sure.
Now, that being said, how'd your summer go last summer with these guys?
As you all know, for our discussions probably,
Yes.
It was rough. We really struggled to find our identity, and I was questioning a lot of things, and in the end,
Kennedy's one of them.
Yeah, and in the end, I finally just said to myself, look, we really challenged ourselves last summer. We played some really good people.
Right.
I just fed into the belief that's just got to help us down the road. That can't hurt us. And as you know, it's hard because it's summer, but you're still competitive. You want to play well, and it's like it's hard to just walk away. That's just a summer game, but essentially that's what I had to do for myself, and got away from it a little bit, and leading into the fall, and our biggest thing was staying healthy through football because 4 of our starters are football players, and we did, and those guys got out, and We just our opening game was against an opponent I thought we should have, handled. And we're down going in 12 in the fourth quarter, and we end up winning by 12. And it was just a weird start. And we've done, not that we've been down in the fourth quarter, but we've been able to really excel in the fourth quarter this year. We are for sure a fourth quarter team where we have expanded the lead in a lot of our games.
How much, this is really the second year in a row where you've lost players that were just key to your success. How much do you adjust each year, offensively, defensively, whatever it might be, to take advantage of the strengths of the guys coming back?
One of the reporters at a game asked me to compare this team to like our team Final Four team 2 years ago. And it's like there's no comparison. They're entirely different. The makeup's entirely different. And I've kind of prided myself in my coaching. Yes, we're going to do things this way. We have some absolutes for sure. But if you're not able to tweak and adjust your system, to what you're going to do, you're kind of kidding yourself. It's just hard to say this is what we're going to do come heck or high water. We're way more. We are a transition team. We are not a walk the ball up the floor team. We were somewhere in between a couple of years ago. We were really good in the half court and good in transition. We were good at everything, really. That was a special team. But we have to create some offense with this team.
So you've got coming up, you're going to have to travel a little bit to play your next one. But you're taking on an interesting team in Liberty Center, who are now, I think they're 13-12, and they won like their last 4 games to get over 500. That's kind of scary in a lot of ways because this is a team now that's got some momentum. How are you approaching that game coming up?
Yeah, for sure. They are playing well. They do have some momentum. I'm just relying on what I know about our guys and what I know about our style of play. And, if we can implement our mentality on how we're going to go about playing, I feel good about it. A lot of people were asking me going into Afrocentric, what do you think? How do you feel? And for some weird reason with this team, I'd never felt any better than I felt going into that game. I felt very confident, and that's how I feel about these guys. I know they're gonna stay resilient regardless of what happens. They're not phased by a lot of things, and I know in the fourth quarter we have been able to wear teams down, and that's what we're hoping to do.
Are you a deep team, Tony?
No, we're not, and we do pressure. So, we are asking a lot out of our guys, and I got a guy or two that they don't come off the floor a whole lot, if at all. And you're a Reedy guy, man. It's a Reedy mentality over there right now for sure with us, and I think you know what I mean by that.
Yes, I do.
Well, they've got a kid. I haven't been able to see any film on him, but it looks like they've got a kid, Gavin. Is it Galen? I don't know how to pronounce it, but
big guy.
Yeah, and he looks like he can play a little bit. Is that gonna? Are they a half court team and try to down to him?
They're a half court team. I think they want to walk it up. They want to pound it in a little bit. They got a couple young guards that'll space things out. I got to dive deeper on them. I've dove in a little bit today, but Gavin's he looks really good down low if you just let him get it and do it. So we got to, we've been really good at diving and digging and helping our post because we got long, lanky wing guys, but our post guys like a 6'2" linebacker, Colin Dent. But he's pretty physical, man, and he can hold his own down there. But we like with bigger guys, we'll like to dive and dig, and we're really good at getting out. Our 3-point defensive percentage is it's under 25%. We're pretty good at guarding the arc.
So is Colin Dent related to one Robert Bucky Dent?
Father Bucky Dent, and Colin is one of the 4 Dent boys, whose mom, by the way, was also one of my former students at DeSales, Leslie Susie Dent.
Well, I want you to know that Robert Bucky Dent was my starting center when I was the head coach at Reedy High.
Man, when you were the head coach of Reedy High, I was sitting in your bleachers every game scouting because it felt like whoever we were playing next at DeSales, that's who we were playing. And I saw a lot of Robert Bucky Dent.
He wasn't a small dude, you know, and I believe the grandfather worked for the Columbus Police Department, the horse patrol, and the way Bucky walked, he looked like Mr. Ed. So, you know, and I mentioned that to him on occasion. And but again, one of my favorite guys, one of my favorite teams of all time was that group over there at Reedy. And when you talk about a Reedy mentality, there's certain toughness about those guys.
Yeah,
and,
great family.
Yeah, yes, certainly is. I mean, I tell you, you've put together, you know, again, I just keep going back to your expectations, struggling throughout the season, probably just driving you crazy. But then to get to this point, I don't know what could be more satisfying. And the nice thing
about I've had a more satisfying year, to be honest. And, you know, you know how it is. You know, all your teams are special in their own way, and that group 2 years ago was obviously something, you know, once in a lifetime type thing. But these guys, you know, it's just been really a gratifying experience. And you know, honestly, I'm not much of an emotional guy, and I got a little emotional last night after that win. And it just, you know, the road to get there, you know, it's been a grind, but man, it's what you do it for.
You know, I think, you know, talking about, you know, coach of the year and all that, it's easy to kind of put your sail up and let it go with some really good teams. I think years like that, although your record is still outstanding, by the way. I mean, we're forgetting that. But, you know, on these years where you have to, again, retool and all that, I think that's where coaching plays a huge part. And you know, of the years here in Grandview, you know, I mean, I thought Ray did some of his best work with teams that were not expected to be able to play well. And you see what I think to the casual fan, you see what coaching can do in those circumstances.
I very much agree with that. And, you know, when we were 28-0 and Luke Ruth, Charlie Russell, and Caleb Schaefer, that was the easiest coaching I did. I mean, you know, I just kind of stayed out of those guys' way as much as possible.
Wow.
And that said, you know, I voted for Jeff Worsler, Coach of the Year this year. I know to not slip up one night and go undefeated, that's not an easy thing to do. And, you know, you can say, well, there's talent and that, but that doesn't make it easy all the time.
Yeah.
So he did an outstanding job. And
I think there's a lot of coaching that goes into undefeated temes. I just think you have to grind in those other seasons. You know, you really gotta, I mean, I would guess you watch more film in those seasons, but I don't know. I've not coached at the high school level, so I don't know.
Ray will appreciate this. I'm trying to get a little smarter, work smarter, not necessarily harder, because there's enough film out there. You can watch all that you want.
Right. That's right.
At some point it becomes, you know, white noise.
And again, you know, you have to sit there and say, okay, what in the world are your kids going to remember when it's all said and done? I remember reading about a guy or watching a video, and he talked about he broke things down in fours. And he would start, if he had a Friday game on Wednesday, he would introduce four of their favorite plays, and then, or actions. And then the next day he might introduce four more, go over and so you had 8 of them, and they might be out of bounds plays. So he didn't define what those actions were, but he didn't want to go crazy. And, you know, I sort of like that, because I think that if you can take away 2 or 3 of the top things that a team does against you, and your kids are prepared for that, you know what? Are they going to beat you with option 6? You know, and sometimes teams are just better. and they're going to beat you no matter what you do.
Right.
So,
And that's absolutely the path we take. What are their top 2 or 3 things? And you're right. There's a fine line between preparation and overload. Like my big thing on it last night, I wanted them playing freely. If they run a dozen sets, okay, we'll watch film on it. All right, we'll maybe walk through a couple things, but are they dependent on their, like some teams are really crisp and dependent upon their execution of sets. Other teams are not so much, just getting their guys in position to create one-on-one. So I think you have to ask yourself that, are you playing a second shot team? Are you playing a transition team? A team that's just kind of running their sets as window dressing to get the guys in spots? And, I think I spend a lot of time mentally just like, all right, how much are we going to devote to this, in practice? Because practice time is, it's premium time, man. You gotta be efficient.
And you can't be in there forever these times of the year.
No,
it's time to get your hour and 15, hour and a half tops probably. And, hey, good job. We didn't get hurt. Let's get out of here.
You're right. That last part for sure, brother.
Well, something tells me that the Tigers from Liberty Center aren't going to be walking the ball up the floor. That's all I'm saying. I'm speaking for myself on this, Coach. But my guess is that we're going to see a lot of action from the Silver Knights.
Yeah. We want to force some decision making, and we're not. We've played a pack line man. Probably the last, when I first came to Reedy, we were up and out in passing lanes. We had that type. And then we got with that really good group a couple years ago. We went more pack line. We were physical, strong, hard to get by, and we're kind of somewhere in between right now. But our guards are not laid back kind of guys. So we kind of have some individual rules that we've kind of tweaked into our defensive philosophy.
Well, I know it's going to be exciting. For sure. Yeah.
See, be working whatever you're doing with your rules. Doing the right thing, brother.
Hey, how many times have we kind of gone like, 360 with things at this game over the years we've done it, and it always comes back to usually how we did it initially, and it's like don't need to change if change isn't necessary. So,
amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, hey. I'm going to let you dive back into your film study where you're going to be efficient, not hard about it, but it's just been fun catching up with you, Coach. I mean, we like I say, we've got a lot of history here on these 3 windows on this Zoom call. So, and we're
a lot of history over a lot of time, right?
Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy.
Oh, boy.
I wish we, I didn't pull out any old pictures to do that to anybody here. So we're all good. But hey, congratulations on another great season. And I think it is a testament to your coaching abilities for your team to be right where they are right now. And hopefully we'll get a chance to come out and see you this week as you get going, because it's always great. And I don't mind traveling to see that. So we're going to be up the road just a little bit at Mansfield, right? So
you got a nice little atmosphere up there, I think. So
you know what? It's fun. And the thing about Reedy is they travel well.
Oh yeah. Our people go there. Our people are into it, man. I probably had, I don't know, maybe 50 to 75 texts, calls, emails today. So it's all good.
Well, I feel pretty special that I was able to get in then, brother.
Yeah,
you got me. Woke you up.
Hey, I think I had 3 hours in by the time you shot me. So it was like one of those like type of nights, mornings.
Well, you've done the same to me. You've contacted me after a big win.
Yes,
I was happy to do it. Happy.
Yes, sir.
Agreement.
Well, again, thanks for taking the time, and best of luck. I mean, really, I hope everything goes the way that you want it to go, and we'll look forward to covering it on CBUS Sports, and watch the roll keep going. So thanks again.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Billy.
appreciate being on with you guys. Always great to see you. Thanks.
My name is Jason Rice, and I'm the head coach at Carrington Lincoln. I was on CBUS Roundball weekly. It was a great time. I enjoyed it, and I would definitely be loved to come back. And they do a great job with interviewing questions and making it feel like it's a good time.
Well, we're back, and boy, I'll tell you, Coach, the interviews with those two guys, we could have talked for hours and hours about things. And again, just for you and me, it was nice to catch up with guys that, well, you with Pat Murphy since he was a kid, but I've known these guys for a long time too. And as I mentioned, got in trouble on 610 WTVN for interviewing Tony Bisutti back in the day. But, again, just great to catch up with them. And unfortunately, as we mentioned early, Pat Murphy not able to get to the regional finals as he falls in overtime to Louisville. Tony will play tonight. That is Wednesday night as we tape all this up in Mansfield. But again, great to talk to them and just quality people who know a lot about basketball.
Well, they are. You said it best. Quality people and doing it for the right reason. I mean, Tony walked away from it and decided to go back. And, in a conversation, he was sitting there last summer. This is the beauty of coaching. He was sitting there last summer wondering, why am I doing this? He was so frustrated with his group. And, and so for him to go from, and again, summertime's a weird time of the year. Fall scrimmages are weird because, are you doing it to win? Are you doing it to set precedent for the future? Create culture. There's so many different things that coaches try to get out of the summer, or maybe not. But bottom line is he got enough to be able to determine what he needed to do to get his kids going. And
and he's done it two years in a row where he's lost people.
Oh, he
had to reinvent his team, right?
Yeah. And that's, there are coaches who, I don't know if this is more the way it is today as much as it was when I first got into it. Like we would play certain teams and we knew we didn't even need to scout them. We knew they're going to run this offense. They've been running it for years and all they do is just plug in different kids and they keep running the same stuff. But Tony's not that guy. Tony's going to run different sets at you. He's going to defend you the same way, but maybe an adjustment here or there. But bottom line, he's going to be much more flexible. And maybe that's the way it is today in the coaching world, that flexibility is the key, being able to adjust to the talent that you have more so than what they did years ago.
Yeah.
And so
you did that. You did that because, you were a half court feed the post guy, kind of in and out. And then you got those kids, you got a deep team. My middle son was on it. You got a deep team that could run. You brought in an assistant coach to, Wally Teeters to help. And that, that accelerated what you could do.
Oh, and I know. But it took Wally. It really did. It took me bringing Wally Teeters in. I was fortunate to get him on board and fortunate that he said yes. But boy, did he open up my eyes to a different style. And it's really difficult when you're a half court coach to give away that control.
Yeah.
And the trust you have to have with your players. And again, I had some quality kids that I learned over a year and a half, 2 years to trust more than groups that I'd had previous. And so, and Wally would, every time we'd take a step back at practice or in a scrimmage or in a game, remember the long-term result of this is going to be positive. And I'm like, Wally, you're killing me, dude.
Yeah. But you know what the thing, I think that it was a good marriage of the fact that Wally could run and you put in a press, which was not a usual thing. But then when you got into the half court, the thing I knew when we moved to Grandview that I was in the right place because of the way you taught help defense in the half court was what I grew up with. My grandfather was a coach and my dad played a lot. And I grew up in that system of put your foot in the paint on the backside and, all those things that help. That's why I knew but you married that with that style, and it put so much pressure on the ball. It didn't allow people to get to the rim easily. And I don't know, it all came together in a way that really, really was fun to watch.
And it was fun to coach. And I think the players, and that was the one thing Wally kept telling me, he goes, you watch what happens. These kids will enjoy playing this style a lot more than playing this half court style, because that's what they do when they play, during the summer. They play up and down, fast break basketball. That's what they want to do. And so we adopted it. And I give Wally a ton of credit for convincing me to go that route.
Yeah.
And
well, it was fun.
And we did it for a few years afterwards too. We stopped doing it when players number 7 and 8 couldn't dribble, and that's when I said, well, it's like we're going back to my old style here.
Yeah.
And so, you have to have depth. And that was always the thing I talked to him about, is how many bodies do we need that we trust that can play at this level to be able to go up and down and play this style, and he basically would tell you, this is what you got to have. So,
yeah. Although we were talking to real quick, Tony Bisutti, we'll see, because, he says he doesn't go real deep and he still, runs that full court. So we'll see what happens with him tonight. Okay. Now,
I bet you Tony will do it. He won't go the whole game doing it.
No, and he won't run and he won't run a double trap out of it. He'll try to get you once, probably.
Yeah, but he'll pick up tempo, and that's no doubt. And hey, we went to a buddy of mine points out to me every time I talk about how well I use my bench, that in the Final Four, we made our first sub like 3 minutes into the third quarter.
It tightens up.
Quarter, not first. The bench shrunk.
Yeah. It's amazing. All right. So I know you have put together your analysis of what's been happening out there. So let's talk about that a little bit.
All right. So let's go through we'll go through our 7 districts in the boys and the regionals and such, and see who they're playing. So, like, for example, we got at Wittenberg, Olentangy Orange, our number 1 seed, is playing Sycamore out of Cincinnati, 12 seed. Groveport already beat Beaver Creek. So there's one result. In the Columbus Regional, this is 4 teams, a little bit of an upset. Dublin Kaufman got by Pick North, and they're going to be playing number 2 Reynoldsburg. Olentangy Liberty, 3rd time they play the Golden Bears, who upset Newark a little, 8-5. So never a positive situation, but boy, oh boy, you've got an interesting 4 teams there. Division 2, New Albany's going to Wooster. They're our number 2. They play 13 Avon. Okay. If the Bears the Eagles of Tim Casey get by them, New Ridgeville, who is the 21 seed, plays North Royalton, who's the number 1. Royalton scores. They've been nailing people. So that might be an interesting final if those 2 play. And then the Central Ohio is Westerville Central versus North out of Westerville, a little neighborhood rivalry.
Yeah, boy, little
Big Walnut and the Licking Heights will be playing each other. All right, so that's our regional. We already talked about D3 with the DeSales going down in overtime. Hartley defeated Steubenville. That was a 1-1, so it's going to be Hartley and Louisville. D4, Johnny Alder, number 2 versus Napoleon, number 6. This is at Bowling Green. Okay. River Valley, R1, Uinoto will be their opponent at OU. Okay. But also in that region at OU, you got Maysville, who's had a real nice run this year.
That's a good team. That's from my hometown. Yeah.
I figured you'd spark up a tad for that one, but they're the number 1 district or number 1, and they're playing New Lex, who I think we saw them at the Battle of the 614, but I could be mistaken.
You did, but Maysville's has got them already this year, and they're tough. Maysville's tough.
All right. Columbus Academy. How about this for ironic? Everybody's going to Mansfield.
Yeah.
Columbus Academy's playing Margaretta. Okay. Number 1. Both of them are number 1 seeds. Liberty Center, number 8, plays Reedy, number 3.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
I know. That's crazy.
That's interesting how that happened. But they're all
crazy.
going to Mansfield. One gets out.
Yeah.
D6 at Ohio Dominican. Cardington's playing Beaver Eastern out of the Southeast. All right. They're the number 1 out of there. So you got a 1-1. North Adams out of OU area. They're the number 2. They're playing Monroe Central, who out of the Eastern District beat perennial state power Berliners of Highland.
I didn't upset. Yep.
That's 1 versus 2, and 2 got the better of it.
Yep.
And then at Ohio Dominican, we've got Patriot Prep playing the Jeeps of South Webster. Both of them are number 1. Bring on your Jeeps. I'm not sure if they're a Gladiator or what type of Jeep they're bringing, but down there in that part of the state, everyone's driving a Jeep.
Yeah, they are.
Right? And then we got Steubenville CC versus Portsmouth Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a loaded region. You've got 3 number 1s and Notre Dame's a number 2.
Yeah.
Vandalia Butler is going to have, let's see here. Franklin, Monroe, and I'm sorry. Is it Russia?
Russia. Yeah, exactly.
Northside Christian.
Yeah.
They get to play it. That's the Dayton region. Yep. Franklin Monroe, who we had scrimmaged Franklin Monroe years and years, plays Botkins on the other. And Russia, by the way, is just lighting people up.
Well, I think they're the defending state champs. Yeah, they're really good.
They're defending quite well. So they've done a great job. So those games, we'll get into it big time tonight, Wednesday. And the semis will be done Thursday, and all of them will be played, I believe, on Saturday, the finals.
Yeah. So going back to Division I, interesting that, Orange decided to go out of town.
Yep.
And they did it, in the district final, did it in a convincing way against Lancaster. But that'll be interesting because, again, that was a choice. And it's the first time with these 7 divisions that we've had those kind of choices at that level. And it'll be interesting to see if it serves them well going outside of town.
Well, if you look at the seeding, they've got a number 12 in Sycamore. Beaver Creek got beat by Groveport, and Groveport was 6 or 7 here.
Yeah.
So you would think that Orange, by doing what they did, made the right move.
Yeah.
And again, they're being played at Witt. Witt's not that far away. It's a half-hour, 40-minute drive. So what's the difference between playing at Witt and playing at the Coliseum?
Now, their fans will be there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I bet you Groveport will show up for this. It's been a while since the Cruisers have won a district and had a chance to go to the Final Four.
Well, they're on a bit of a roll. I mean, they've got some mo. So, yeah, we'll see. We've talked this whole year about the precedent of, that will be set this year for the 7 divisions and the strategy coming out, especially in Division I and Division II. And I got to tell you, I think after, Orange being able to get in the situation they're in now versus the seeds and the other, on the other side coming out of the Southwest, I think that becomes a huge strategy point going forward.
Well, but how many years will you have 2 teams? Actually, in this case, maybe even 3, if you want to go this stretch it that far, that are of the caliber that Orange, Reynoldsburg, and Liberty are. Those are 3 top-notch programs, and you'd love to see. Orange probably looks at themselves and say, "Okay, hey, we're pretty daggone good, but." The only team that could beat us in this district's probably Reynoldsburg. So we should leave. Okay. And they've looked at Cincinnati and said, that's our out. If we could go that direction, maybe we can get by. We know what we have in Reynoldsburg. We're not so sure what we have in, Sycamore or whoever.
Yeah.
And, so this year we have so many teams getting out in Division 1 and 2 and taking advantage of it. I mean, look at New Albany. New Albany stays away from maybe the number one team in the state in Westerville North. Are we going to have another team like that next year that everyone's going to run from?
That's a good point. No, that's a good point.
It's so happy that this year Central Ohio is really strong at the top end. Just imagine had we gone one more year of only 4 divisions, what those semifinal and final games would have been like. Holy cow. I mean, Upper Arlington's the 8 seed, and they beat the 5 seed.
Yeah.
To win the district.
Yeah.
And that's their first game. They win one game and they're district champion. I mean, I'm sorry, but being an old school, I don't think you have to be an old school to roll around on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think when you look at Coach Kalo at Orange, he's had great teams the last couple of years, and they've lost that final, that regional final.
Right.
And I just think that played into it too. He just wanted even though they were going to the fairgrounds and not ODU this year, I think he just wanted another venue. I think he wanted to, get out of that.
Change that up a little bit might be beneficial, and maybe that's what did it or will do it for him.
Yeah. And I think he, ultimately maybe didn't want to play, Delaware again. Of course, they got beat, so it wouldn't have happened anyway. But, that's been kind of the bugaboo there. So,
well, the nice thing is he probably thought going over there he's going to play somebody he didn't know.
Yeah.
Now he's got Groveport.
Yeah, I know that you're right. That's the ultimate irony. Yeah. All right, man. Well, tell you what, we got a week more. At least, and we'll keep going.
We got one last thing here.
Oh yeah, no, you got to talk about the girls. Yeah, you got to talk about the girls.
The final 4 with the ladies.
Yep.
And this is going to be brief, not to be disrespectful, but the team that everyone in D1 wanted to stay away from, Pickerington Central, has made it.
Yep.
Okay, they made it to the final 4, as did D2 and one of our former interviewers.
Yep.
Big Walnut. Okay,
yep.
They got by Westerville.
Yep, talking to Kerry Largent, who we talked about, beating a team 3 times in Westerville South. They finally got.
Yep. D4, Fairfield Union.
Yeah, they're undefeated. They're having a whale of a year.
And again, I saw them beat a pretty good Circleville team. I saw Circleville play Watterson, and I really liked that Circleville team earlier this year. And Fairfield Union beat them handily.
Yeah, Fairfield Union's really good. Yeah, they're really.
They must be very solid. And then finally, no stranger to success in the tournament, Afrocentric in Division 5. Somehow, not the number 1 ranked team in Central Ohio. There's your Max Prep rating system. Max Prep. Come on, computer, get it right. Anyway,
they need to get with the RPI to make it work.
The Ray Power Index. The Ray Power Index is much more accurate. We know that. By the way, just so that you know, the Ray Power Index, I do believe that Olentangy Orange may be 1 for 1. In number 2, Westerville North made me 2 for 2. In Picky Champions, Hartley 3 for 3. The one that I did not get right. No, I had River Valley as my number 2. Heath was upset by the Bloom Carols.
I know.
So there's my 1. So I'm 3 and 1.
Yeah.
Go to 4, I had Academy. I'm 4 and 1. Division 6, we had Cardington, 5 and 1. And then Patriot 6 and 1 in the RPI.
Not bad.
Yep. I'll take my rating system.
Not bad. And by the way, I want to mention real quick on Cardington. I had a chance to go see them after our interview. And I don't know if you saw last week, Coach Rice did a little intro for us, did a little tape thing to say hi. And what a great guy. What a great atmosphere up at Cardington. They've got 11 seniors playing, and talk about knowing your role. They had a tough first quarter that they just could not quite get out of their own way. And then they hit the skinny pedal on the right after that and just ran away. Yeah.
Well,
So, but what a great guy. What a great atmosphere. Just had a great time up there. We've got a photo gallery up of that game on CBUS Sports and really enjoyed it.
All right. That takes care of us this week there, Mr.
Yeah, boy.
Rouch.
Well, I head back to Columbus for next week. I know you're in Florida for a little while longer.
I'd say spring training is over. The 23rd is a Sunday. That's when I have to put the sleeve on the shoulder. I'll be done. Okay, no more bullpen work for me. And then I'm coming up after that. So by that time, we'll be rounded third and heading for home, as the great one said.
Yeah, our buddy old Nuxie. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Hey, will you be safe down there? And I will, we'll talk next week. We'll be ready to go.
There we go.
All right.
Righty.
Thanks.
Thank you.